Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday to you all. Hey, I think I was going to say it's the first Saturday in October, but I actually think it's the second Saturday in October. But it is awesome. We are here and we are alive and we are thriving and doing all the things. And I'm just so happy to have you all here. I see we already have some people who have joined in. We are back for a new season of Spark Her Blaze after being on a little bit of a break to regroup and renew and refuel and re-energize as we get ready for the fall season, which is such an awesome time of the year, fall, where so many things are changing and we are seeing life in new ways and new vibrant colors and new radiance. And so I thought, what an awesome way to start off the new season than with an amazing panel of women that are going to talk to us today about something that we all have been in, that is a part of each and every one of our lives, and that is relationships. And I am so excited to have four amazing women who are going to be joining me today talking about various statuses in their relationships and where they are now, how they got there, how they got through, and most importantly, how they are thriving, and encouragement on how each one of us can thrive in whatever relationship status that we find ourselves. So I am so excited to have these ladies join us this morning. I see you're out there, ladies. Whoever's out there, just say hello. Let us know where you are listening from, because we like to know that you can hear us. Y'all are kind of like our mic check, right? Sound mic check. Is this thing on? Are y'all out there? Say hello to us so that we know that you are there. And everybody can see us and hear us. So I'm going to bring my guests on this morning, my fabulous guests. This morning I have, oh my goodness, there they are. Y'all know that's a beautiful panel. Y'all can't even lie. Look at them smiles and those faces. I just am excited just to see these ladies this morning. And I just trust that God is going to have them share some important and insightful experiences and information and encouragement and empowerment on relationships and how we can thrive in them. So good morning to each one of you ladies. I'm so happy to have you, each one of you here. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Valamir. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, they are beautiful women, and I am excited and honored to have them on the show this morning. So listen, y'all, you know we like to get right to it, but before we do that, I want you to know who you looking at and who we talking to this morning, and just give you a little insight into who they are and what they're going to bring to the table this morning as it relates to our discussion and conversation on relationships. So first, I'm going to start with Miss Kelly Foster. Kelly, raise your hand. Let the people know where you're at. Hey, Kelly.
I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited you are here as well. Kelly A. Foster is the founder of the online women's ministry Imperfectly His. I love that name. And author of Dear Proverbs 31 Woman. Stop making me look bad. I own a copy. Awesome book. Kelly has helped hundreds of women embrace their imperfect stories, become healthy, whole, and healed while pursuing their passions with purpose. I love that. She is a minister of the gospel for over 10 years, has served as a church planter, a coach, and a mentor to many. And when Kelly's not juggling dinner, her writing deadlines, you can find her binge watching documentaries with her three beautiful daughters in St. Louis, Missouri. So thank you so much. Welcome to the show, Kelly. We are delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Ayana Hall. Ayana, raise your hand. Let everybody know where you're at. There you are.
Hey.
Ayana is known as the relational pharmacist. She's a wife and marriage strategist, a coach, and a speaker. And she is on a mission to engage, inspire, and equip wives and wives-to-be with the prescription for success to gain clarity, confidence, and connections. After gaining her doctorate in pharmacy and having her career, she had 3 daughters, became a housewife, and has been married for over 14 years. So Ayana has mastered the art of getting clear, confident, and connected while shifting successfully through different seasons of life. Oh, I know so many of our viewers can relate to that. Welcome to the show, Ayana. We are so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. This should be fun.
I think it's going to be a blast. I'm looking forward. All right, next I'm going to introduce Petra Gordon. Petra, let them know where you're at. Petra, good morning.
Good morning.
Is a graduate of the University of Waterloo with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Social Development Studies and a Bachelor of Social Work degree. After serving her community for 13 years in the social services sector, Petra now serves her community as an entrepreneur, an educator, a speaker, a widow support coach.
Yes,
A
ma'am.
widow support coach, which I'm so excited about, and a community leader. She is an author of Faith in the Fire, a story of resilience, and Petra currently resides in Ontario, Canada. Welcome to the show, Petra.
Thank you for having me. So glad to be here.
Oh my goodness, I'm excited. I think you might be our first guest from Canada.
Oh, I'm honored. I'm honored.
That is so super cool to me. All right, last but not least, I am going to introduce the doctor, Dr. Jasmine Lee Morse, to the show. Good morning, Dr. Jasmine.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for having me.
So excited to have you. Dr. Jasmine is a multi-talented speaker, educator, community activist, and an award-winning community leader who thrives in helping others transform their lives. She is the author of an amazing book called Heart Rhythms, which fuses personal stories with insight, humor, and girl chat candor to tell Dr. Jasmine's truth about surviving singleness. So she's going to be sharing with us from the special place of singleness today. When she is not mentoring women and girls, she is engaging her students during university lectures, speaking as a keynote, or serving at all levels of the government. Listen, Dr. Jasmine has received numerous awards and accolades. I don't even have time to go through all of them, but just a few of them to note is that she was included in the Daily Record Successful by 40 Very Important Professionals list, and she is a President's Management Council Fellow. She has spent many years in the Social Security Administration at various levels in senior roles as well, and she's also served on the faculty at Morgan State University and Coppin State University. Proud graduate of Morgan State, where she earned both her PhD and her bachelor's in English, with concentrations in creative writing, African American literature, and women's study. She also has earned her MA in liberal studies from the College of Notre Dame of Maryland, and she lives in Maryland with her husband. So we are so excited to have each one of you to the show this morning. All right, y'all ready?
Ready.
Yes.
All right, awesome. I am so excited. So let's talk, ladies. What's your current relationship status? What's your current relationship status? I'll start. My status is I'm married, been married to the same man for 21 years. That's my status.
Okay.
Right. Well,
I'm also married.
Go ahead, Dr. Jasmine.
I'm also married. Just been married 2 years, 2 fabulous years. I've known my husband since 2016. We've been married for 2 years.
Awesome.
Spent our first year of marriage in the pandemic, celebrate our anniversary in quarantine.
Right. It's awesome.
Wow, that is awesome. I think that is something worthy of celebration for sure. And that's something on your resume that many of us will not be able to share. So that's awesome. Ayana, go ahead. Ayana, you were about to say?
I have been married for the last 14 years to my college sweetheart. And this December, we'll celebrate being together for 20 years. So we'll be together longer than we've ever been apart.
That is fantastic. Fantastic. Awesome sauce. Kelly, tell them, what's your relationship status?
I am newly divorced and single for about 10 months now.
That's newly. All right. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And Petra, tell us, what's your relationship status?
I was married for about 10 years and I have been widowed now for 3 years. Going on 3 years. This December, I'll be widowed.
Wow. Listen, we share, even though I think the beautiful thing about this is that while we all have shared different statuses, all of us at some point have shared the same status of single. So we will all be able to speak to that status through this journey, because I actually think, and Dr. Jasmine, as I was reading some quotes from your book, you share about how important your singleness is in really your other relationships that you have, whether that's married or whatever, that actually the lessons that you learn, the experiences that you have in your singleness actually wound up being foundational as it related to your marriage. And can you just share a little bit about like what you mean by that?
So I recently posted on Facebook about how my journey as a single woman and has impacted just these 2 years that I've spent married. I subtitled my book Heart Rhythm: Surviving Singleness with Faith, Know-How, and Grit, because it was by faith that I got through my singleness, got through the various obstacles that I faced. Know-how, it was by seeking strategies, whether through books or just through prayer and advisement. And then grit, this idea about this innate courage that we have in order to heal, do inner healing, and all the things that we need to face, unwittingly regarding life's obstacles. So what I mean is this idea that I mastered the ability to thrive in singleness through these 3 principles allowed me to use those same principles when I face challenges even in my marriage. Not specifically conflict in my marriage, but just life, getting through a pandemic, getting through obstacles at work and things of that nature, things that rise up in life while you're in a relationship with someone. And in addition to life obstacles, I had to reach back to those things that I mastered and I was able to learn through my life lessons I learned in singleness.
I think that that's so good, because I think when I think about singleness in my single time, I don't think of thriving. That's not really the word. I don't know if any of y'all other out there can relate. Any of my other guests can relate. Like, would you use the word thriving when you talk about your experience with singleness?
Actually,
Yes?
for myself, I would say yes. I was never, when I was single, I was never feeling that to have a husband or have that spouse or relationship that completed me. I was like, no, I'm going to be whole first, do the things that will make me happy. And then if he comes along, great, add to my happiness.
I know that's right.
I'm just going to live
Yeah.
for God and serve. And as I was doing that, then God brought alongside my husband, and it was a great fit. But I never was the type sitting there dreaming for marriage. I wasn't that girl, okay? I was not that girly girl. I was never that girl. So I was just like, I'm going to be whole and be fulfilled and grow. And when he comes, let him add to that. If you can't add to that, then you're not the one. Okay?
Girl, let me tell you something. Now, I grew up in the South. All I heard once I had over 21 was, girl, when you gonna get a man? Girl,
Yes.
you gotta find a man. Girl, when you gonna get married? Oh my
Absolutely.
Lord, you 25, you ain't married. Oh,
You
goodness,
30,
got
you're
any
not married.
prospects? You ain't bring nobody home. Oh my good, like it was a big thing. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that, but
I would, but not in the sense of, okay, you're getting too old, but I wasn't thriving as a single because I didn't know how to date correctly. I was not choosing the right people to have in my life. So when I met my husband, I was literally like, I'm not dating. I clearly don't choose correctly. It is me. I can't blame these guys for how I allowed them to treat me. So I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. So I'm gonna just stop. I was like, no, I'm done. And then when I met my husband at the time, I told him, when I was like, look, I don't want to be your girlfriend. I'm not interested in that. I was like, I'm not interested in hanging out and entertaining all these guys. So we can go out. I'm not that I'm going out with other people. I was like, but these labels, this relationship thing that I'm seeking, I don't do that well. So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to just try to figure out, okay, I don't have, most women have a list of what they want. I had a list of what I did not want, because clearly what I wanted wasn't right.
Yeah, 100%.
oh my gosh.
You know what? I have a bit of a different experience, which is interesting. Petra, I 100% agree with what you're saying, but the interesting thing is that's how I feel now. That is where I am now.
Yes.
So I actually, my life is kind of reversed. This is my first time really being single. I met my former spouse in high school. We were high school sweethearts. And so we had a period of separation, and then we got married pretty much right after college. So my entire adult life has been spent being married. Wow. And so I didn't experience this single time of let's figure, and have all these, I was in college, but you focus on school for the most part. And so now, having had that experience, now as a whole grown woman, as I like to say, because I was a little grown woman, now I'm a whole grown woman now, still learning. I go, okay, Jesus, let me tell you like this. You know me, and you know the situation, and I'm gonna live my life, and I'm gonna thrive, and I'm gonna be one with you. And if a man can get on board with that, all power to it. But if not, I'm gonna keep on pressing. But I didn't get that spunk, that courage, that like this is what I need to do until after experiencing this entire season of marriage and knowledge and learning. And here I am.
That's good.
That's so good.
That really is. Well, I have to say that my experience definitely mirrors more so Ayana's from the standpoint of I picked bad, y'all. I picked real bad. Wasn't good at all. And so when I met my husband, I actually had known him for some time, but when he kind of approached me about, hey, let's go out, I was like, bro, listen, it's me and Jesus right now. I'm not even seriously, I don't even know if I will resume dating at this point. Like, it's just been so bad. I don't even know if it's something I'm interested in doing again. I said, this is what's up. So it's me and Jesus. I'm going to church at least 2 times a week, most weeks 3. You're welcome to join me there. And he was like, cool. So he jumped. So that was kind of how that popped off for me. But I literally was like, Ayana, like, I picked bad. I need to not do this again for a while until I kind of figure it out. Now, unlike Ayana, I did create a list. Did anybody create a list? Like after the last bad breakup, like I literally sat down and was like, this is what I need. And then I had a list of like, this would be nice to have. You did it too, Dr. Jasmine. Okay, yeah. You did it too, Kelly. Okay, so I literally did put down on a paper because I was like, you know what? I need this bad experience to remain fresh. You know how we be forgetting? This is how we end back up in bad relationships over and over again. It's like, it really wasn't that bad. No, it was bad. It was really bad. It was bad. So let me go ahead and write that list down so I don't forget just how bad it was when I didn't have this, and this. Let me just remember. And so, Dr. Jasmine, you did a list too. Tell me a little bit. Do you think?
Go ahead.
Do you think that having that list, like, did it make it easier for you as you were screening? Because or did you feel like at the end of the day, you didn't really look at the list? And viewers out there, let us know, did you have a list when you went into this thing? Like before you went into a relationship side, did you kind of have an idea of like, these are my non-negotiables? And then this stuff would be nice. If he could be 5'11" or taller, that would be great. Because then I didn't get that one. I just, in case y'all wondered, I didn't get that one. But it's all cool. I got the non-negotiable, so I'm good. But did you feel like that helped you, Dr. Jasmine?
This is what I'll say. I was like many of you when I was surviving single. That's why I tell them, look, surviving single. It's not always thriving. It got to a place where I learned to thrive, right? So at any rate, I did have a list. And then one thing I realized is my list did not necessarily match God's list. So my list said, I want to get married by X time. My list said, I need him to look this way. My list said, all kinds of things. But the only non-negotiable for me was for me to meet a man that loved the Lord, the man that had the same faith-based Christian values. That was probably the most non-negotiable thing that I had on my list, other than the basic things like have a job, you know what I mean? To be able to be the spiritual leader of my household, be able to provide in the manner that we both deem that we need to live under. But certainly I did have a list, but my main thing was having hearing from the Lord, having that peace going into that relationship, knowing that this is the one that the Lord had for me, because some of those other guys that I was dating I didn't get the okay. I didn't have that peace. So I think the 2 main things on my list were his relationship with the Lord, and was the Lord ordaining this relationship? Was it okay for me to pursue that relationship? And I did get that peace, that nudge from the Lord that said it was okay.
Got it. Was there anything that once you got married, because all of us were married at a certain point in time. So was there something that you were just like, I didn't know I needed this? And but then you found out, oh my gosh, I don't know what I would have done without this.
I would say Jesus. And I say that in this way. I knew Christ, but I wasn't a follower. So when me and my husband got together and he rededicated his life to Christ, I didn't understand what that meant, what that walk looked like. And as he was walking with God and as he was studying his Bible and he was seeking, I was like, oh, okay. What he has, I want. So that sent me seeking. So then when I rededicated my life and then we realized, okay, in order for this to work the way we envision it, we need God to be foundational in not just our lives, but our marriage. And that changed everything because it was like, okay, we were doing what we knew, but what we didn't know, we didn't know. So it was like, once we had that and allowed God to guide and direct us and put us in the right church and the right community and right, kind of right space, and then be able to seek God first before we sought the other's opinion or thoughts or direction, it helped us to not just build a better foundation for our marriage, but just to build better lives.
Got it. You know what? There's one thing that I didn't have on my list that I realized was really, really critical. And I want to get to some of our viewers because they're posting some great comments here that I want to share as well. But I did not realize how much historically I was attracted to emotionally unavailable people. I did not realize how important that emotional connectedness with someone was. And it took me so long. It was something is missing, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And it really, honestly, wasn't until I went to therapy that it was so tell me about intimacy. And I'm thinking she talking about sex.
Right.
She wasn't. That's not what she was talking about at all. And so I realized that something that was missing from my list was finding somebody who was safe enough that we could both freely develop emotional intimacy, but also that I also had to learn how to create a safe place for emotional intimacy as well. Because girl, I didn't realize, I could have a sharp tongue. That ain't exactly an environment for safety. You tell somebody, bare your soul to me, and you be like, but I'll cut you too. That doesn't exactly work to bring about the emotional intimacy that I think is critical in a relationship. And I'm going to just put up here, Phyllis shared her comment with us. She said she only had one item on her list, and that was to be a believer. But looking back, I should have had more on the list. That's such a great point. Ladies, do y'all think you need something more on the list than to just be a believer?
Absolutely.
Kelly said she want to chime in as recently divorced. She would like to chime in on that one.
I would absolutely like to chime in on that one. You know what? I think sometimes we give more to this idea of they're a believer.
Right.
And I would love if that meant the same thing for everybody, but it just simply doesn't. And authenticity and real genuine personal relationship with Christ and real connection. And if you're not around and if nobody's around, I am just as connected and I am doing what I know that God wants. Those pieces, that's really what we're talking about when we say this person is a believer, because you can be with a believer and you guys be on totally different spectrums, unfortunately, in a relationship or a marriage, and it happens all the time. And so I actually pulled up my list, y'all. This is my current list. I'm not going to read it to you. I ain't going to embarrass myself. But I brought it up because I know what I'm thinking, right, what I put on here, but I needed to just see it before my eyes. And so my list, what my list would have been years ago, is totally different than what my list is now. My list is all about the way, well, not just about, but it's about the way someone makes me feel like you're talking about, Naja, in their presence. What I can see beyond their words, right? What their actions, it's a lot of actions. I need someone that is devoted to Christ in this way, that regardless of what I'm doing, they're on their own journey with, they don't need me. I'm looking for somebody that does not need me. And it's hard to put that on my list because
I like that. Wait.
that's good.
What you mean, girl? You want somebody who don't need you?
You know
He
what?
needs you.
I've been in codependent relationships before, and codependency is real. And honestly, babe, when we all look and scroll on our social media, a lot of us are caught up in codependency. You know, and a lot of it came from, you know, our childhoods. We weren't secure in our childhoods and in our initial relationships with our parents. And so we grow up and we cling to these people and they become our gods. Like Ayana is saying, you know, we get, oh, they're a believer, now we're good to go. No, sir, no, ma'am. Just because you have a spouse does not mean that they replace Jesus. And guess what? When you're going through and you guys can't figure things out, whether it's big issues or little things like a toilet seat, you need a Jesus that's going to keep you centered and not, you know, and allow your spouse to not like you that day and then not tear you apart, because guess what? They're human and you are too. And sometimes you don't like that man either.
Yeah.
You know, nobody is going to keep you solid like Jesus is. And it's great to look next to you and see a supportive spouse, a spouse that's there for you, that listens, that has that emotional intelligence. That is amazing. But if we are all real, in marriage, it is not like that every day. And if you are not equipped to deal with that, then you are going to struggle in your marriage tremendously, because essentially we're looking for Jesus. And that man will never be him.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I always tell people that two things that grew me up the fastest was marriage and kids. Because I did not realize just how much growing up I had to do until I started cohabitating with another person. And I think that in many instances if we allow our relationship to help mature us, it can. It sounds to me like, Dr. Jasmine, you looked at your singleness as an opportunity for you to mature, right? To grow and evolve into the person that you were aspiring to be. And that was with a man, without a man. That was something that was a priority for you, independent of your relationship status. And so I want to talk about how each one of the statuses that you're going to speak on today, how did that mature you? And I want to start with you, Petra, because we probably know the least, right, about what it's like to become a widow. And I know that we have some viewers on specifically today that are widows. So I am excited to hear that. But talk to us about how making that transition from, you know, you probably already had to make the transition, right, from single to being married, and then all the transitions that come along within marriage, right? As you individually evolve as people, there are transitions that are happening all the time within that particular relationship. And then after losing your husband, like, I know, like, the maturing that had to take place, and just walk us through sort of like what it has taken, or what it is taking, because it may even be something you have to do daily to be able to thrive in being a widow. Because I mean, when I interacted with you, I was like, you know, you would think you would talk to a widow and they're gonna be like, yeah, so yeah. I just felt so much energy on you. Like, it was clear that you are thriving in this status. And so I want you to share with us, like, what have been some of the keys for you to be able to really get to a place where you are thriving where you are?
No, absolutely. So for me, my husband died when I was 38 and he was 42. And we had been together married for 10 years. And then I had to, when he died unexpectedly, it was like, okay, and now what, Lord? What am I supposed to do with all the promises, with all the vision, with all the dreams? Now what, right? And it was a season and period where I had to now reconnect with who God intended me to be before I became a wife, before I started on this journey. And really, it's a self-discovery of identifying who am I truly in Christ, right? Because our identity becomes so much a part of our husband and our children, right? And so I didn't have any kids with my husband, and that's all in my book. I talk about that journey. And so now my husband's gone. So what? Do I no longer have value, God? Does my life now stop? And so it was really on this journey of rediscovering purpose, what God created and designed me to do, and to embrace the fact that, yes, this grief, this journey, it hurts, but Lord, there's still work for me to do. So it's really that heavy dependency on God to really navigate those next steps, to allow yourself to grieve and to go through that experience. Because I'm not going to lie and say that I don't have my tough days. I do. But in the midst of it, I cling to God and the truth of what he says about me before the foundation of the world. And that's what helps me to continue to say, I'm going to serve God, and I'm going to see how I can use this pain and experience to serve others. So it becomes something that you grow beyond yourself, that stops being about me and all about my needs. Not to say you neglect yourself, but what drives you has to be greater than the things that are temporary here on earth. So how can I serve God and use the time that you have given me that's left to make an impact and to honor and please you? And in the same time, honoring my legacy, my husband's legacy, because we were in partnership together serving God. And so now I want to continue to do that through honoring God and serving and living to my fullest capacity.
Man, I'm almost speechless after
That's
that,
so
man.
good.
I'm just like,
That's so good.
I'm
Yes,
like, yo, I'm gonna need.
that is so good.
Wait, to be okay. So listen, I feel this is so aspirational, right? Because I think so often we look at marriage as the aspiration. It's like,
Speak on it.
I want to
Speak
be
on
a
it.
wife. If I'm not a wife, then have I really become? Right. And so you had the experience of becoming the wife, right? And then that title no longer applied. And so, or does it? I don't know. You might have to educate me. I mean, maybe once a wife, always a wife. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I mean, I don't wear being a widow like a cloak or a badge on my shoulder. Okay. It's a state, it's a fact. My husband died. All right. So I don't wear that around my neck, as a scarlet letter. It's a reality. But I no longer let the status define me, right? It's really letting God define my purpose, my identity, what I'm going to do. And being a widow does not hinder me from continuing to fulfill the will of God in my life. Is it easy? Absolutely not. It's intentional. It's a choice. I decide that even in the midst of the hardship of all the loss, that I'm going to continue to see God, the other side of this grief. Because I'm like, God, this can't be it.
Right.
I mean,
right.
This can't be it.
Yeah.
So it's that determination to say, I got to see the other side of this, and that losing the husband does not mean I lose myself. I'm still here. Right? A lot of widows lose that, right? It's like, who am I now? And I'm lost and I can't survive and I don't want to live. But you're still living because you're alive still. So what does that mean for you now as you take those steps forward and really embrace who you can become in spite of this loss?
Yeah. Wow. That's so powerful. You know what? When you were speaking, the words that jumped out at me was on the other side of this. It's like, how can I at this point, right, really believe that there is something on the other side of this? And I think no matter your relationship status, we're all going to reach a point where this that we're talking about is this. It's like this thing right here that I'm experiencing in whatever state that I'm in, whatever relationship status I find myself, getting to the point where you see the hope, really, that there is hope on the other side of it. Now, I want to talk about, ladies, like tangibly, what are some of the things that you have had to do to get on the other side of it? And again, it's so interesting to me because, again, I think so many women romanticize what marriage is,
Yes,
and what's involved and what it's not. I mean, I am. It is so interesting when I talk to women who may not be married and they're just like, "Oh, but you got a husband." And, it might be a moment in time where you be like, "Yeah, I got one, all right. I don't know what, you know what I'm saying? Like, because it's not always that feeling where you're like, yeah, you're right, girl. I got him, girl. No.
Real talk.
On the mornings, right, when you're like, I got it. I think is this what I wanted to get? I'm not even really sure. Like, what are some of the practical tools that you use when you find yourself in whatever relationship status that you're in, and you feel like, I don't even know if this is what I really wanted, or, or how did I get here? How do you get to that other side of it? Because that's really, Petra, key in what you just shared about is getting to the other side of that thing. Who wants to jump in there on how you get to the other side of whatever challenge it is that you are experiencing in your relationship?
I can say from when I was married, right? I had a different impression of what it was going to look like. And I didn't have a fantasy, but I just thought it would look different. It's very different to date someone and then live with someone and see all of their little habits. And you're like, what in the world? Who is this person? And so I had to choose my battles. I'm like, he is not, to my neat freak self, he's not me. And so I had to release some things, or otherwise I would have been mad every single day seeing red. And so I had to really come into understanding that this person is not me. He will do things different from me. He was raised different from me. He has different ways that he sees the lens of the world. And so am I going to be angry at him because he's not going to be exactly like me? No, I will not. And so I had to step back and show grace and not be nitpicking at everything, and just be able to have courageous conversations with him about things that, you know what, no, we need to sit and talk about this. And it may be uncomfortable to have those conversations, but we're going to have them because I love you and I want to see us grow. Rather than ignoring it, but I'm fine, that fake, like, I'm good, I'm not angry. No, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to talk about those things, and we're going to work on the things that really matter. Because I think when people get into marriages, they're nitpicking on things that aren't important. And I think that deeper perspective, even now, after being married and now widowed, it's like, no, you're fighting over stuff that don't matter. Focus on what is important. That's how you're going to grow in your relationship.
Yeah,
I think that's such an interesting point that you raised there. I was, I didn't get married until I was 37. Right. And so I homeowner, lived on my own, managing things, just quote unquote independent woman. Right. So when I started, when I got married and we moved in, I had to adjust my expectations about how things are done. Right. Of course, we did premarital counseling and we level set our expectations. These are our roles and responsibilities in the home. And of course, they've evolved over time, even this last 2 years. But I think the biggest challenge for me, and this to all the ladies out there who are still waiting and getting married much older than you might would have liked, it's just so important, like Petra has already stated, to don't sweat the small stuff. You know what I mean? Certain things are not worth that huge argument. Certain things are not worth the nagging, if you will, because it doesn't do anything but cause harm in the relationship. And I had to learn that. I had to learn my husband's, when he's ready to talk about various topics, when I should approach him regarding something that I'm feeling. It's just learning his communication style. He's learning mine. We had to learn. My husband always quotes the scripture that talks about learning your spouse. Dwell with your wife according to knowledge. So likewise, I feel like I had to do the same thing. I had to dwell with him according to the knowledge that I had at the time, and then seek the Lord about how best to approach various topics that may be challenging for me.
That's good.
Sure.
I would also share that it's not like putting yourself on your priority list is not a detriment to your marriage. It's not like in it, because I thought that, okay, I became this wife, and then when I stayed home, I was like, okay, I should be last. My husband needs this. The kids need this. I was doing all of the things and I was exhausted. And then my husband had to remind me, he was like, hey, the kids are good, but I'm not. And you're not. So he had to remind me of, okay, I get all of these things are important, but you're important to me. So if you're not taking care of you, then you're not taking care of me. And you're not taking care of the kids well either. So I think that like sense of selflessness, yes, that's a part of it. You are supposed to, give and love, and it's sacrificial love, and you're supposed to be a helpmate and all those things. But God created you God created me with all these gifts, talents, and abilities as this uniquely beautiful woman, and I shouldn't diminish who she is so I can show up as his wife. So I think it's that balance, but then it's also, you have to balance it well. And then sometimes you do have to put yourself, you can't be at the top of the list in these moments at this time, but that doesn't mean you're not on the list.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, I think the question was about getting to the other side. Just some practical things. I just want to mention there is a grief process that comes along with divorce. Obviously your former spouse is still around, they're alive and well, you can see them. But there is very much a grieving process over the death of that relationship, the death of the vision that you guys created together. And it is devastating, because almost in a sense of, you feel innately like there's something wrong with you because you couldn't bring this vision to pass. Now, mind you, this is a part of the journey. Everybody's going to go through that. Everybody's going to feel responsible regardless of what happened. He could have put a gun to your head, girl, and you're going to still be like, oh, no, what could I have done differently? You know what I mean? And so that whole process, I would say, how do we get from there, or from in the deep trenches of that to this other side, is allow that process to take place. Do not be ashamed of that process. It is normal. All the feelings that come along with it are a part of the process. They're a part of the journey. Don't stay in one place too long, but always be there. Be there in that moment. When you end a relationship, everybody comes out of nowhere, and you got all these conflicting messages. You got the Bible that's got its message. You got your mama, it's got a message. Your best friend has a message. Your in-laws, they got a message. Your kids, if they're around, everybody's got a message, and you're sitting here trying to figure out, how do I make sense of this and be alive? Like, this is hard. Waking up is difficult. Right. And so you've got to get support. You've got to take care of yourself. And those are really the two most important things. You've got to find a support system that really can allow you to be in the moment. Because I've had people along my journey that want me to be angry and want me to be upset. And maybe some days I need that, but other days I don't. And so I don't need those voices, those messages in my head every single day, because that's not going to push me where I need to go. So therapy is very, very important. Having a strong support system, whether they're friends or family or whoever your people are, it's okay to rely on those people. I'm somebody that's very self-sufficient, been that way since I came out. If I need something, I will ask you for it, but honey, I ain't trying to ask you for it. This journey I've had to learn. I have to rely on people, because what happens is the enemy wants to get in your head and tell you what you're not and what you don't have. You're not good enough anymore. You're not a wife. You don't have this identity. Look at you. You all alone. No, you're not. It's a lie. And the thing is, you can perpetuate those lies by isolating yourself and by not allowing your support system to be there for you, because you got a chip on your shoulder and you don't need them. It's a lie. We need so many people around us when we're going through. And honestly, you needed those people around you when you were married.
Yes.
You needed those people around you when you were single. And so what I found is, and that's why I love the way Jesus, he has our stories set up for so much success for somebody else, if we could just share them. My experience in going straight into marriage and going straight into this heavy, deep relationship and going, oh, look at this, everything's great. And now going, boom, here's life. And you go, wait a minute. I think I had it messed up all along. Yes, you did, honey. And now you get the opportunity. That's what this is. You get the opportunity to do it over, to try again, to trust me more, to lean more into who I've already called you to be before you became wife, mom, this, that, entrepreneur. Forget all that. You were just Kelly, and I told you you were mine. And that's what I want you to depend on. That's what I want you to trust in. And so wherever we are in our seasons, God is calling us to do these things. This rely on your people, this taking care of yourself. It is necessary for every season. Don't get with no husband and think you don't need nobody else, because you're sorely mistaken when you are in a crisis and you need to call somebody. You don't have anybody to call on. Don't get in your holy huddle with your husband Could y'all have pillow talk and think that you don't need your mama and your best friend and your pastor and your therapist? You need all of them. You always have and you always will.
Girl, you got a whole amen on that. Like
Yes.
literally the viewers like,
Amen.
amen, amen. Okay, pass the collection plate for real at that point. It's like, because as you were speaking, Kelly, like when you started talking about grief, I actually thought about how as a married woman, I experienced grief.
Yep, my singleness, I grieve that. Yep,
Girl,
I
me
grieve
too.
my career that ended
Yes.
because I stayed
But you know,
home. Yep.
that's good. Yes. So
Yes.
I mean, so being able to process grief is going to be important.
It's a life skill.
Yes.
It's a life skill because
sure.
you're going to experience. Because for me, as I think about some of the grief I experienced, it was grief about expectations that didn't get met and were not going to.
Come on.
I'm just saying, like literally, like, wait a minute now.
You are not showing up how I expected, and
No,
you're not going to. So how do I live with that?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you the truth. When I jumped in marriage, I was running. I was running, and I was looking for a rescue and an exit strategy from what was happening with me. Okay, so that was real for me. And so I think that once I got to a place where I was like, whoa, he ain't the exit and he ain't the rescue strategy. And I still got all these same problems I had before I got married. And now they still here.
Right.
It was supposed to fix that, bro. What happened?
Amplifies it.
That's good. It amplifies it.
Yep.
And so I literally had to learn how to process that grief of expectations that we're not going to get married, that the vision even that I had created that I have to admit wasn't really the healthiest around marriage. I had to grieve that too, and really kind of grieve this whole superhero status that I had kind of placed on marriage and my husband, to be honest with you. It was like, bro, like, this is not, you were supposed to fix some stuff. And you not doing that. And I know I don't want to trivialize it because it was real big for me. And I started the behaviors that wound up manifesting when you do not grieve properly and healthily, it impacts everybody. And so I really had to do some personal work with my own peoples to try to help identify, because sometimes when you in it, you can't even see it, right? And going back to what Kelly, you were saying about the support system, and that should include a wide array of people.
Yep.
And oftentimes I would say with many of the women that I interact with, it should include a therapist, because there's a lot of times some really unresolved healing that I ain't talking about your husband. In fact, when people start telling me about all the stuff their husband be doing, I'd be like, I really don't even want to hear about that. Now, unless it's abuse. Now, we talking about, and I'm talking about all the abuse, emotional, financial, spiritual, we talk about all of that. But outside of abuse being in the mix, I'm like, I don't really want to hear about him. I want to talk about you.
Right.
And what are you doing and how are you potentially contributing? And is there something that is being triggered in you because of some things that you haven't resolved? And that's why you're reacting in the way that you are reacting. So that's good. Hey, Petra, we've got a question here, though, from Amber. And she is asking, what are some practical tips for processing grief?
Right. Well, here's the thing that I've learned on this journey is that everyone's process and how they manage grief and how they move forward is not going to look the same. So I can't give you the 5 steps, quick steps to what it should look like for you. So that's something that you discover. But what I've learned is not allow the grief to consume me. I don't ignore it. I don't avoid it. I don't gloss it over. Sometimes I have to sit in that emotion. So whether that's me crying, whether that's me having a memory, whether I'm triggered by something through something that I can't experience anymore with my husband, I allow myself to sit in that emotion. I allow myself to physiologically feel that sensation of that feeling, and then I release it and let it go. Because all of those emotions, they're temporary, right? Right? They're temporary. And so in that moment, it will hurt. It may feel like a stab. It may feel like me feeling a hot sensation or a tightness in my chest. I allow myself to receive it, and then I let it go. And it does pass. It doesn't have to continue to drag on for years and years and years. And the less I allow it, And the thing about grief that I've discovered is that there is no beginning and ending to grief. You carry that grief when you've lost a significant other, your spouse. There is no, it's over now. I mean, it's 2 years. You should be over with that, right? No, it's 5 years. No, I will always miss my husband. I will always carry him in my heart. I will always have him in my memory. I can move forward, but I don't move on. And so accepting that, the reality of that, and not putting that pressure on you to see, I should be over this by now. No, it's about how do I continue to take the steps forward, and I'm concurrently working through my grief. Okay, I'm still moving forward. I'm doing what I need to do. The grief is still there. I recognize it, but I work through it by acknowledging that it's always going to be there. The magnitude of how I allow that to impact on my life,
that's it.
I control that.
That's it.
I won't let that stop me. Okay,
that's it.
And that's what I would encourage any other widow that's on here dealing with grief to say, it's going to always be there. The magnitude of it, you can control how that's going to dictate your life in the future that you're going to have.
Ooh, that's good. Man, I'm going to tell you, when you were talking, it made me think about trauma.
Yes.
I mean, truthfully, you know, and I know that for everybody, you know, how you process and experience, you may perceive it as trauma and you may not, but just the way you described, you know, the emotions and the intensity of the emotions, it made me think about trauma. And I'm a trauma survivor, so I can really relate to that. And so to be able to, for me, when the trauma, when I'm triggered and those emotions come up, I do have, for me, a very clear playbook that I return to when those experiences happen. And so I think that while I'm not widowed, I am quite familiar with grief and trauma, but being able to know that the emotions are going to come. I think sometimes we get caught off guard because sometimes, kind of like you were saying, Petra, we think, okay, now I'm over it. It's not coming back. I know with trauma, it's like, okay, I did the trauma therapy. I'm good.
Right.
We're moving on. It's over. Right. But then to be able to say, no, but if it does, what's your plan? Like, get ahead of that so that you're not caught off guard with, it's here. Oh, goodness. And now because you haven't thought that it would come back and you haven't kind of taken a proactive step to address it, it overwhelms you.
Right.
And so I would say, think about, what is your plan when it comes up? For me, I'm about to get that journal out.
Yes.
I have some questions that I ask myself.
Right.
You know, I identify the emotion, I allow it to purge, I let it all come up. And then I say, what if this is true? Is it all true? I know I feel alone, but am I?
Right.
You got to really kind of disassociate, right, what you're feeling with what is actually happening, because that often is what is causing the intensity, as Petra described, to come up. And I actually at one point was identified to be, so I was working with some support groups and they were like, okay, so we want you to lead the grief group. And I was like, bruh, I can't lead the grief group. What am I going to talk about? You know, I mean, I lost my father, but I mean, you know, you got people who've like experienced like their husbands or their children or whatever. And I just felt completely ill-equipped to be able to address it. And what the leader of the group told me, she said, Nigel, what you have to remember is that when you're dealing with grief, it is about grief just intensifies what's already there. So what is coming up, it was there. It's just the grief is now bringing that thing to the surface. And so the more you practice, when things come up, because they're going to come up in your marriage, no matter your status, stuff coming up, is how are you dealing with it?
That's right.
You know, before you get to a grief situation or before you get that, I think really helps determine how to do that. And that wasn't really what I was going to be planning to talk about, but here we are.
I'm going to add something. My pastor talks about treating our feelings as indicators. They're indicators. So think of like a red, green light system. You know, what is this feeling telling me? What do I need to do based on this feeling? It doesn't mean I need to go make a move. I just need to pay attention to what this feeling is telling me about myself and where I am and what I feel. And I think that's a really, really good thing that I've used. I go, okay, identify this. All right, I'm feeling this, but what is this telling me? kind of in the moment, like Naja said. I love that action plan idea. That is excellent. A couple other resources that I would share is Divorce Care and Grief Share. I don't know if any of the other ladies have participated in those programs. Those are national programs. They're excellent. They go through a systematic process. They're group-based videos and learning and all types of, just feedback, individual time. It's good to have a process that you can trust when you can't trust yourself. I've learned that. So when your relationship isn't there, that you've always depended on for whatever reason, whether it's divorce or death, you can't lean on that. So you need a system that you can trust to sort of process through these things that's structured, at least for me, to kind of get you to a place where, because initially, when you initially have these huge things, these huge traumas, because that's what they are, they stop you in your tracks, and your trauma response kicks in, and you can't think. So if you're spacey in the brain and you can't make a decision, that is normal. Your brain is trying to cope and react to what's going on around you, and you can't make decisions. You literally cannot. Your brain is not able to process. So sometimes it's good to get up underneath some teaching, some structured courses, some structured support groups that you can just, all right, I'm turning to page 2 and I'm gonna read. And that's all I can do. And in this read, it's going to give me what I need for this moment. One more thing, and I don't even know if you can see, this is a very, very old copy, but it's called Rebuilding When Your Relationship Ends. This is an excellent, and I'll put in the comments afterwards, an excellent, but excellent book. It's been updated, but it kind of walks you through this framework, and this is about divorce. A framework for just kind of processing through your emotions, processing through where you are as it relates to divorce in your relationship. And honestly, as I read it, I was like, I feel like people just need to read this. Whether you are in a relationship, single, divorced, married, whatever, it just is really good foundational tools about taking care of yourself and paying attention to your thoughts and your feelings. Those are my practical things.
That's good, because I'm just gonna go around the room for everybody else, because as it's already been an hour, y'all. Yes, it goes by so fast, especially when the conversation is so rich and good, like what you ladies are bringing today. And so as we wrap up, I want to do 2 things. First, I want to just ask you ladies, just if there's a woman who's listening and she is struggling to thrive in her singleness, struggling to thrive in her widowhood, struggling to thrive in her divorce, struggling after her divorce, struggling to thrive in her marriage, what is one thing that you could tell her to say, listen, I know where you are, but this one piece of advice I think could help you be able to make that shift, right? Shift the gears a bit from you just feeling like you just making it, barely hanging on, to move into a position of thriving.
I would say from a wife's perspective, or even a wife to be, find your village. Because they always say, like, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to have a healthy marriage. And when, like Kelly, we were just speaking about having tools, tips, and strategies. You need those in a marriage. You need those to be an effective wife. You need those to walk that out. So I would really encourage you to find your village, whether that is a therapist, whether that is a coach, whether that is a mentor. Find someone and some people that will advocate for you going from where you are to where you want to be, because it's so easy to get caught up in all those feelings and emotions. And you may be processing grief while in your marriage, just in a different way. So how do you move past that? How do you move forward? How do you build more confidence? How do you get more clear about where you want to go? So I would just encourage you to find someone or someone's that can speak life into you, but also help you gain the strategies, the tips, the wifey tools, as I call them, to have in your toolbox, so that when you are going forward, you have those processes to walk through.
That's awesome.
I'll say that the greatest asset that I had to recognize, especially during my singleness, is that I had to search within myself to figure out what my purpose was. And realize that there was not a Prince Charming who was coming to save me, who was coming to change my life. And, that's a fantasy world, right? So in learning and following my purpose and seeking the Lord about finding my purpose, as I began to walk in purpose, as I began to obey God and seek the things that He placed on my heart to do in my life, that's when I met my husband at the Congressional Black Caucus in Washington, D.C. in 2016. follow my purpose led me to bump right into my husband.
Wow.
And so I'll say, that's the greatest piece of advice that I could give. And even now in marriage, as I seek to find myself and navigate, if you will, my heart rhythm in marriage, right? Navigate this space of this evolving relationship that is not the same as it was 2 years ago. It's still my relationship with God and my purpose for myself, right? This purpose that God invested has for me, as well as the purpose that my husband and I have to accomplish together, have been keeping me grounded and not focusing on the fantasy of what people think marriage is, right? So that's the piece of advice that I offer to both single and married women.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, Petra?
I'll go.
Okay.
I don't even know what to say. Divorce is not a death sentence. It is not.
Right.
It's not the end of your time. It is not the last of you. God is not done.
That's right.
It's not over. In addition to all the things that I've shared, the one thing that I will say, and this is something specific that God spoke to me, but I'm going to speak it to you as if he's speaking right to your heart now. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
good. Petra?
I would say, just to add to what all these wonderful ladies have shared, is that this journey of getting to the other side and moving forward does not happen without intention. And so you can't control the circumstances around you. You can't even control what other people will say and do, but you can control how you are going to show up and how you choose to live in the midst of adversity, in the midst of loss and grief and all the things. It is intentional. It is a choice. And I love what you said, Nigel, before around really assessing what is actually real, because our thoughts will play so much tricks on us. And we believe the story more than we believe the fact. And so when you really get clear on, okay, wait a minute, I'm feeling this. What's real? And challenge yourself, look for the evidence to demonstrate, is this really real? Or is this a story that I'm creating for myself? And so as you're navigating this journey of widowhood, sometimes you might be saying, you know what, my life is over. No, you got to be able to say, where's the evidence that your life is over? Believe in the possibility, that belief that it's possible that in the midst of this grief and this loss, that there is something that can be birthed in this season that is going to be great and that will allow you to thrive. It is possible. And that's all I need you to believe today, that it's possible.
Yes, Lord. Woo, that is so powerful. Listen, I know that our viewers are listening to you ladies and thinking, where can I find her at after this show? And so I want to give you ladies just a few seconds to just tell people where can they find you on social. If they want to work with you or learn more about you or get your books, where can they do that? So Dr. Jasmine, go ahead and kick it off. Where can they find you?
Thank you so much. I enjoyed spending this time with you all this morning. Everyone can find me on all social media platforms at drjasmineleemorris.com. If you're interested in my book, Heart Rhythm: Surviving Singleness with Faith, Know-How, and Grit, it is available on Amazon, along with a journal for single ladies who are seeking to thrive in singleness. And look forward to connecting with you all if you're looking for writing, coaching, or consulting, or communication strategy sessions. Thank you.
Awesome. Ayana, where can they find you?
Hey, it's been an awesome time with you all this morning. You can find me on all the things at Beyond Committed, at beyondcommitted.com, on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And you can find ways to connect with me. You can do one-on-one coaching, group coaching, all of the things. So yes, I'm all about helping wives and wives to be thrive.
Beyond Committed. Kelly, where can they find you, baby?
You can find me at kellyafoster.com. All my social stuff is there. My blog is there, as well as access to my brand new book, Dear Proverbs 31 Woman, Stop Making Me Look Bad.
Awesome sauce.
I love that.
I love that title.
I love
Petra,
it.
where can they find you?
I am on Instagram as Petra Ignites. I'm on Facebook, Petra Gordon Ignites. And you can also reach me on my website, petraegordon.com. I also have a book, Faith in the Fire, that is available on Amazon. Thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Thank you, ladies, so much for what
Thank
you
you.
brought
Thank
today.
you.
It was
Yeah.
such a rich conversation. And so, as our viewers, as we are closing out, I just want to tell you, each of these ladies shared one powerful thing at the end of this conversation about what you can do to thrive. They told us, they would share with us how critical having a village is, and how having a mindset to be able to say that you are gonna be okay is critical. They talked about having and making intentional choices that you will get to the other side of this. And I would add to this at the end, and also to have purpose as an individual and in your marriage. You need purpose in both areas. And so don't get lost in just the purpose of the marriage to the detriment of understanding that you still have a purpose independent of marriage. And so I would just add, ladies, get well. If you want a well marriage, if you want to be well in whatever relationship status you find yourself, you got to first get well. And so you got to be honest about those areas where you might still be sick, or you might still be struggling, or you might need to overcome, or you might have a shortcoming. Get well. That is the best gift that you can give any relationship that you find yourself, is because the first and most important relationship that you got to have is with yourself as a result of the relationship that you have between God and yourself. Amen. So that is our advice today here on Spark Her Blaze. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It was a fabulous time. I hope that you got something meaningful out of this conversation. And if you do, I ask that you do one of three things: like, comment, share, like, comment, share. Ladies, that's how people find out about us. You know that there's a woman who could benefit from this, benefit from the rich nuggets that were shared today with this amazing panel that we had. Please share it with her. Share this, tag her, let her know what we talked about today, because this might be just the encouragement, just the knowledge, just the nugget that she needs to get to the other side so that she can thrive in her relationship. I'm Nyjah Drakes, founder of Spark Her Blaze, where we empower women to spark their flame so that they can blaze their uniquely divine trail. Go out there, spark them and blaze them. Y'all have a great Saturday.